What's going on, people? It's Luca here.
And Justin, ciao.
Ciao. And this is our first podcast with video.
Yeah.
So you get to see what we actually look like. I know we got faces made for radio.
We do.
So,
it's true.
If you prefer to listen to this instead of watching it, I understand. And but just like and subscribe as always, because we're putting out a lot of content. We're working more and more on this, and we really hope you enjoy this. So let's get right into it.
All right. Well, today our scripture comes from Genesis 2, 1 through 4. So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all his work of creation. This is the account of the creation of the heavens and the earth. That's it. So Genesis 1 and 2, what a lot of people don't understand is Genesis, there is not one creation account. There are two. There are two creation stories. What I just read you is actually the work of Old Testament editors blending two stories together, because verse 4 actually starts the second creation account. So one of the things, and this is kind of like the big question that we're talking about today, is the Genesis story, is it a creation myth or historical saga? Because a lot of people and a lot of denominations say, I take 7 days to be the literal creation story, 7 24-hour Earth rotation days. And other people say that's stupid, doesn't fit with the hermeneutics of Genesis. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But kind of for some background, so there are two accounts listed in Genesis. There is what scholars call the priestly account, and then there is the Yahwist account. So the Torah, the first 5 books, kind of are written pieced together through a couple sources. There's the priestly source, the Yahwist source. There's the Deuteronomy source, which writes Deuteronomy, pro tip. And then there's kind of some other sources hanging out there, which I won't, go into detail. But the priestly account, which is Genesis 1, you can tell if you read the language, they use the word Elohim, which means God. Now, we use it to mean capital G God, but Elohim actually is just the title or the honorific God.
Okay.
So it can be used for other gods too. So it can be Elohims in effect.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yes. And the first account is where you get kind of the call and response. God said light, light happens. God said separate the water from the sky, it happens. It's what they call a rhythmic narrative. And so, which if you remember back to John, I'm talking about John, John parallels this with a kind of God speaks, except John makes the word literal. Whereas this is kind of the story. The Yahwist account, it's marked now. It uses the word Elohim, but it also uses the tetragrammaton, which is where we get Yahweh from, YHWH, Yahweh. That is the actual name, that is God's name in Hebrew.
Okay.
And if you look at a lot of segments of Judaism, they don't use that word. You never speak, it's verboten to speak God's name.
Interesting.
You always hear him referred to as Elohim, Adonai, which means Lord, or Jehovah.
Okay. What about Hashem? Because we hear like a lot of Orthodox Jews use that.
You do, which is kind of, I believe, more respect. I'm not personally familiar with that word. But Yahweh, modern, especially in the evangelical circle, Yahweh is used frequently, and that is a no in kind of Jewish rabbinical tradition.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Still to this day?
To my knowledge, I mean, I would have to go ask them. But, so the other thing, there is a word that gets used in this as kind of our finishing up our background. There is another word that gets used in my opinion, misused. And there is a word in the Greek, so in the Septuagint, which is the Greek transliteration, The word is Uranos, which is where the Greek god Uranos comes from, means sky. That is sometimes translated as firmament.
Okay.
Right? So some people, when they talk about the sky, they use the word firmament. And what Uranos means is, to the ancients, is the vaulted expanse of the sky. So basically they went from one end of the world to the other, is this huge dome expanse, because it looks like a dome because the earth is round. Pro tip. Pro tip, the earth is round. So that is where the Greeks would call, so they conceived of it as an ark or a vault over the earth. And some people will use the word firmament to mean something that it does not. They will use it in support of a flat earth theory of why there's a dome across the sky, and that is not, this is being used in a literary sense. This is not being used. It's describing what they see, but it's literary. It's not meant to be taken literally.
Yeah.
So, but this really comes to the question is, we tend to read, we understand the Old Testament backwards, right? Because we start from our modern position, and then we read into it and we go, oh, I'm going to try and piece this story and to make it fit into what I know. And if we're going to be good scholars about the Bible, we don't start from us, we start from what they thought.
Okay.
And when you look back and you look at to answer this question, because I looked at okay, can I answer this question, right? Is this creation myth, historical saga, literal, figurative, blah, blah, blah? You see almost a complete lack of caring about that question. In fact, it's not something that ever comes up to them at all. What they are more concerned about, there's a diverse body of Jewish scholarship. They're far more concerned with how the 7-day timeline relates to the Sabbath, and it being used as an example of why you keep the Sabbath, than it is for a genesis, pardon the expression, but a genesis of how we got here. And so kind of how you answer this question, is it creation myth or historical saga, it really depends on what I'm going to call the literary genre. And to understand, Aramaic and Hebrew are very, very poetic languages. So there is oftentimes not, when they don't, for example, they don't have an exclamation point. That is not a grammatical punctuation you come across in Old Hebrew. So when the Bible repeats something, I will never leave you, never, 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 that is their exclamation point. That's all that means.
When you repeat
something 3 times, usually at the end of a sentence, but that is where you get, that is, in English, you would write that, I will never leave you, exclamation point. That's what that means. So to answer the question, is this a creation myth or a historical saga, was kind of not really important to the old kind of Jewish scholars, rabbinical scholars of the time. It was just kind of, here's how it started, and what's more important is what we're doing today. It's less important what happened before us.
Interesting. So it's like, it doesn't matter how we got here. It's like, it matters what we're doing today.
Correct.
Essentially.
Correct.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. But it's like, I know Genesis brings about the story. It kind of brings the story forth. Noah's Ark and the 12 tribes. And then eventually we get into real Old Testament, the story of Judea and the Jews, the Israelites, the book of Isaiah, talking about, the Messiah coming, Jesus Christ. And then obviously we get to the new covenant. So it's kind of leading up to that history.
Yes.
I've also heard certain things, certain references. I'm not 100% certain on them, but how, there's certain, we spoke about this in past episodes of certain books that are non-canonical, the Book of Enoch, how sometimes things are referenced in other Old Testament books that are say that you need to reference, that you could go back to reference the Book of Enoch to kind of find that, oh, okay, this makes sense now. I'm going back to here,
Right.
that cross-references this.
Genesis, I mean, the famous example is Genesis talks about the Nephilim or the Nephilim, however you want to pronounce it. And they're very extensively talked in the Book of Enoch. But the problem with things like Enoch, which I believe is in the Ethiopian Bible, I would have to double check.
I believe it is.
Enoch's a wild book, but the thing about Enoch is we can't really verify that Enoch wrote it or was around to dictate it to anyone.
Okay.
That's the problem with Enoch. Authorship is really difficult to come by.
Okay.
And all of the copies that we have show up much later than people who in theory would have been alive at the time were around to write. So, and that's the other thing too. The other thing too, like the Jewish tradition is that Moses wrote the Torah. No friggin' way did Moses read that. I'm sorry. No friggin' way did Moses write the Torah. What probably happened was, which is what usually happens in ancient history, is there's oral tradition that comes down.
Yeah.
And at some point, someone writes it down.
Okay.
Which is why you get different accounts, because people are writing different accounts at different times. A lot of our verifiable history happens from the period of the Babylonian exile onward.
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff that, I mean, we do know that, for example, when the Hebrews are in Egypt, there's a Ramses mentioned. So there are things we can peg, but can I dig it up in an archaeological sense of the word usually starts happening around the Babylonian captivity.
Yeah.
Because they kept the best records and were post Bronze Age collapse.
Yeah.
So a lot of Genesis is part creation myth, part history. It's almost a combination. Like, did Abraham exist? Probably. Did it happen exactly like that? Maybe. And you have to be careful, because then you veer into the territory of, is the Bible story or is it literal? And that upsets a lot of people. But my personal opinion is, if there was a literal 7-day creation, it was not 7 24 hours. So just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Because there's also like the argument of like Christians that would believe in, say, evolution. Humans live with dinosaurs. Right. There's that. There's a belief that the Earth is only 4,000 years old. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't around then to know to see, see that being brought about 4,000 years ago. But
it's a weird, personally, one of the things as you study the Bible, as a Christian, it's a weird hill to die on. Like, it's a really, like, to be your thing of like, oh, I'm going to die on, the world was created in 7 days. Really?
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing. This is the one thing that you want to splinter a church on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And I guess it comes into like the mystery of faith. That's really
for sure
a big aspect of this is the mystery of faith. I did speak to like a deacon about this because I wanted to hear his take on it, and he said that like the Catholic Church specifically doesn't necessarily have a specific view on it, because you have people within Catholicism that are creationist, and then you have people that are evolutionists. And they said, but they could kind of jive together, and people bring about different opinions, but at the end of the day, it's hard to prove who's right or who's wrong. And to kind of quote the famous theologian Thomas Aquinas, said that, you can't prove all, by all biblical texts right, but you can't prove any of them wrong.
Right.
So there's no proof to any to downplay or to prove them wrong. And I was like, that's really brilliant, because that's his like thesis on how to prove God is real. And he explained that. He's like, we can't prove everything is correct, but there's nothing in here that we can disprove that's wrong. You can't tell me, like, you can't bring that.
For sure.
That fact up.
No, and it's interesting, because you would think that if there has been one denomination that is organized that would have an opinion on this, it would be Catholicism. who respectfully has an opinion on like everything.
Yeah. Yeah. They're always trying to find the truth.
Correct. So it's very telling that they have come to the position of, we just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting. And also, too, I think a lot of early scientists, especially from the astrophysics, from the big perspective, I guess I'll call it, a lot of them were Catholic priests. So there has always been a vein of, we want to discover God more, therefore we're going to put our efforts into scientific pursuits. Side note.
Yeah.
I personally take the 7 literal day creation as a very American thing, because when I talk to people from other Christians from other countries, out of cultures, they kind of look at me like I have 3 heads. Like, why are you asking me this question?
Would you say it's an evangelical thing? Like it
is a fundamentalist.
It's a fundamentalist.
It's a fundamentalist thing in particular.
Okay.
It's that when I'm trying to control people, I have to control the entire narrative.
Okay. Is it like a fundamentalist, like Baptist or Pentecostal? Like
I'm going to use the word fundamentalist broadly because they will some come from Baptists, some come from Lutherans.
Yeah.
So I don't want to peg a specific denomination to it, but I'm going to just broadly say it's a fundamentalist thing.
Okay. That makes sense. That does make sense, because if you get people that are like word for word, extremely legalistic, I take everything verbatim, they look at it and this is legit, even though things have translated, loss of translation, the languages are very different. You have Semitic languages compared to Germanic or Latin languages. There's a lot going on there.
I mean, I can barely get Greek, which is not that far off from English, relatively speaking, let alone putting it to Indonesian, which is several steps linguistically removed from me, let alone from Greek.
Yeah, exactly. So it's they do use the Latin alphabet, so I'll give them that.
They do. Well,
that's about it.
I know. I will prop this up. So last year, Elevation gave not a ton, but a good chunk of money to help translate the Bible to is it Cambodian? I think.
Interesting.
To some language, one of the languages in Southeast Asia. Someone can correct me which one it is, but it was kind of, which is cool, but it was also kind of like, wow, like I kind of assumed we were done. Like we have the resources to do that, and the fact that there's still translations to other languages in the world is kind of interesting. I didn't know that was really happening.
If I had to guess, I think it's Burma.
It might be Burma,
because in Burma is like an extremely diverse country. There's like over 100 ethnic groups. A lot of them have languages that are from completely different language groups. You know, it's like Hungarian versus English, totally different.
Right.
And then the ethnic groups are totally different from one another. And their languages are extremely isolated per se. And Burma, which is now called Myanmar, it has been isolated from the world for a very long time and only opened up like 10 years ago. So I'd assume that there was nobody going in, nobody going out.
Right.
They were probably cracking down on any religion. Missionary religion. They were probably like strictly Buddhist per se.
Well, they also still use the imperial system, fun fact. You know? They're one of 3 apparently. Us, Liberia, and Burma. Okay. So not a strong record for us, but it's fine.
Well, Liberia is like, it's kind of like America.
Sort of.
Africa,
sort of. Maybe. Sort of. Not a historian, but sort of. But no, so I guess my question would be, if you had to pick, would this be a creation saga, or would this be a creation myth or a historical saga for you?
Oh man, it's extremely good because it's like one or the other.
Answer carefully. The internet's watching.
Yeah, I know, right? I better answer this good.
Yes.
Is it black or it's white? Maybe it's gray. Maybe it's like in the between. Maybe that 7 days is like 7,000 years. Maybe it's 700,000 years. Maybe it's 7 million years. I don't know.
Maybe it's 7 minutes.
7 minutes. Yeah. I don't know. That's on God's time. That's the thing. It's like, I think maybe as humans, we're not meant to understand it. We're meant to, like, this is what it says, and we're meant to read it and be in awe of what God created. Be like, whoa, he did this? whether it be 7 million years, 7 days, 7 minutes, 7 seconds, he did it. And on the seventh day, he rested, which is like really important. That's what I wrote down. I wrote like God rested on the seventh day, which is really, really interesting to see that like even God takes breaks.
It's true, because how many times do I not take a break?
Yeah. Yeah, it's important because it this is just something that's kind of like I'm probably getting out of this is that just shows us maybe sometimes that we need to slow down on certain things. Maybe we need to slow down of what we actually think about this. Mm-hmm. Maybe we need to rest on it, or maybe maybe I'm getting a little too carried away, but maybe we need to take a rest on thinking it was actually 7 days or 7 minutes or 7,000 years ago, and then maybe focus more on what God has now in the present day.
I would say I'm more interested in what God is trying to teach me through it than I am to figure out if it pieces into my very momentary existence belief of how the world was created.
Yeah.
And I think that's where science, unfortunately, has been politicized in the past decade, and that's really a terrible thing, because science is not political. Science is just what it is.
Yeah.
It's science.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate. It's like money. When money gets involved with it, people can become greedy. And, it's like, hey, if this organization's giving me X amount of money, I'm going to sway that way, politically. And that's when, like secular politics, secular think tanks got involved in the science realm of things, trying to disprove God. You got these people that are considered these big high thinkers, and they say, like being an atheist is cool of some sorts. And it's like, so you have all the answers figured out, just because, you have higher degrees and you think you're some high and mighty person because you have a podcast. I'm thinking of someone right off the bat. I'm not sure if I should mention the name, but I don't want to. Okay, whatever. I'll go ahead. It is my first person that comes up is like Sam Harris. Mm-hmm. He's like, he I know he's gotten into really big debates with Christians and Muslims as well. And he just, I feel like he comes off in like very bad faith about how he arguments. It's like, I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to disprove everything that you believe. And it's just like, so what do you believe then, bro? Like, I don't understand. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to prove at the end of this?
I'm shocked, Luca. Shocked someone on the internet is arguing in bad faith, Luca. I'm so surprised. That never happens. I think that we're talking about.
Yeah, but this is considered an intellect. Like, he's some guy that's like, oh, we're supposed to look up to because he's got all the degrees on the wall. He's got his own podcast. He's a scientist. He's this. He's that. And then yet he's like trying to point the finger and be like, you're wrong, buddy.
Well, and that's the problem. I mean, people have said the same thing about like, what's his name? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like he made commentary on some political things and people were like, bro, stick to your lane.
Yeah.
Stick to astrophysics, please.
Yeah.
Like you can have your opinions all you want, but you don't need to be spouting on that as if like you have done years of research to understand this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe this respect tradition too, because look who started those fields, so maybe you should put some respect on that too. Yeah. So, that makes so much sense. And then, the way the culture is swinging too, it's like, oh yeah, like I gotta stay cool and hip. So I gotta sway the way the culture is doing it. So if this is what's cool in the culture, let me say this, and these talking points and virtue signaling. But no, I completely see the same thing.
And I think one of the things too that I find interesting when I study this, in particular, is you find that Genesis 2, where the Yahwist account is, you find that the focus of that story is the creation of man. So this is where we get like man goes to sleep, gets a rib removed, and woman comes from him, right?
Yep.
You find that the focus of that story is establishing man and God's cosmological order. So this is where which Luca, as a Catholic, you should know this. This is where the theological idea of dominion and progress come from, right? Man, we have dominion over the earth. It's ours. It's a gift from God to us. But we are expected to steward God's creation and to progress it or make it better, which I find very interesting that is the second thing that gets talked about. Whereas the first thing that gets talked about, the priestly account, which is by people who are already in the priestly caste, right? They're more concerned about kind of this literary format of creation. I find that very interesting, just personally. But
now, do we know who authored Genesis?
Moses, we just told that.
It was Moses.
It's Moses.
That's who we believe.
I mean, I don't. There were probably you could probably dig to find out who authored these specific accounts. I don't know. It's probably a collection of works.
Okay,
is what I would guess.
Yeah.
That would be my personal opinion. So
obviously we say like Abraham is the father of the faith. From him comes Moses. Like through the line, the lineage of the faith.
Yes.
Quick question for you, because I've had this on my mind.
Yes, sir.
For a while. Who is the high priest Melchizedek?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Yeah.
No one has ever really asked me that question.
Yeah, because I've been here. I hear this at service at Mass, and Abraham, the father of our faith, high priest Melchizedek. Those are said in Mass at a certain point, and I know who Abraham is. Don't know Melchizedek. I'm super curious on who that is. A high priest Melchizedek. I don't know where he's mentioned.
He's mentioned in Genesis 14.
Okay.
Interesting. Interesting. Oh, okay. So he is the guy, he comes out and brings bread and wine out to bless Abraham.
Okay.
After his victory in battle.
Okay.
And this is, so the parallel there is, one of the epithets of Jesus is that he's our high priest to God.
Yeah.
He is kind of the first person to do this bread and wine thing. That's the parallel that's being drawn there, is Jesus uses bread and wine for communion.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of a part of Jesus' fulfillment.
Yeah.
What I would imagine off the cuff. This is Jesus' fulfillment.
Yeah.
Of all the old law and the old traditions.
Let's go. Oh, we just learned something big here today.
Yeah, that is on the moment.
Yeah.
Research.
Another cross reference. Old Testament, New Testament. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's which isn't surprising. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus. Was when he is in the temple as a young boy learning. So
just true.
Also, being God has its advantages, so you already know.
True. It's like, hey, I remember when they did this for me, so.
Yeah. But it's interesting you say that, because usually what you hear is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
Is what you hear. Usually Moses is left out of that, which it's interesting that you were saying that, which is why I was kind of like weird. That's not usually what I hear. Usually what I hear is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
Who they call the three patriarchs.
Yeah.
Of the nation of Israel.
Yeah. It's funny because there's a mountain in Zion National Park, oddly enough, called Zion National Park, and it's three peaks, and they call it the three patriarchs.
Oh, do they?
I believe it's dedicated to those three.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is really cool. I just thought that was neat. But yeah, I mean, just like looking at Genesis in general, where we have Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, lot of interesting stories.
Yes.
Whether I know is the beliefs that like whether they happen, because I know the belief of Noah's Ark, when God flooded the earth, that the belief that his ark is actually on top of the mountain in Turkey, Ariyat, which is sacred to the Armenian people, because that was in historical Armenia, which Armenia was the first Christian country in the world in like 100 AD. And that mountain was sacred to them. And I know to this day, the Turkish military doesn't allow you to go up that mountain. It's like completely forbidden.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's the belief that he is that the Noah's Ark is up there. And isn't it the belief that like Noah lived to like 900 years old?
They all lived. If you read Genesis, they all live a long, what historians call a long ass time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And this is one of the big issues I have with literal interpretations of Genesis, because you get into if you're going to be consistent academically, right, intellectually, you say the world's created in 7 literal days. When Adam and Eve leave the garden, the next thing we hear in the Bible is they have 2 sons named, Cain and Abel, right?
Cain and Abel.
How do Cain and Abel get kids?
I forgot. It was
it's gross. Way. It's gross.
Yeah.
That would imply they were having affairs with their mother.
Yeah.
That's gross, dude.
Yeah.
I don't think God, who specifically forbids that kind of activity, by the by, I don't think God. So that's why it's that point where I first intellectually tripped over the idea of a literal interpretation.
Yeah.
Same thing after Noah's Ark. How many people were on the ark? We don't know, but if it's just Noah and his family, again, gross.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't follow you, because intellectually speaking.
Yeah.
Because that's disgusting. Flat out disgusting, and flat out what the Levitical law doesn't allow you to do.
True.
So that's why I have trouble with one of the main reasons why I have trouble with literal interpretations of Genesis.
Was the Tower of Babel also in Genesis?
Correct. And again, that there is some aspect of that which is probably something historically happened, but a lot of the story is myth. A lot of Genesis is mythos, mythology. And when I say that, people take it to mean I'm saying it's not real. I'm not saying nothing happened, but I'm saying that there is a moral storytelling element to Genesis. There are things that God is trying to tell us. And so just like Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? People love to say, here's the site where Sodom and Gomorrah was. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point of the story is the fact that at a certain point, which we'll get to next episode actually, at a certain point, God allows sin to take over people and allows the consequences that come with it. That's the point. Also, it's a story about hospitality, which is a big thing in the Middle East at that time. Because when people visit you, you don't have sex with their kids. That's not okay. Fun fact. But hospitality, you see this even in the Roman tradition. Okay, to have people come over to you and to not be ready for guests was extremely culturally embarrassing. Because hospitality was a way of showing, mercy and love to people.
Yeah.
So, and if you read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, the people didn't take away from it is that, they wanted to, have sex with them. And that was so rampant in the Middle East that a lot of prohibitions in the Levitical law come about because God wants to separate the Jewish nation from the other nations of the world. And a lot of pagan gods have a sex cult aspect to them.
Interesting.
So a lot of times you went and to have intercourse with a priest or priestess was having intercourse with the gods.
Huh.
Yeah. So God's like, don't do those things. That's not right.
Yeah.
You're going to be tainted by that. If people look at you and can't distinguish between you and them, how are you going to be an example of being my people if you're behaving the way that everyone else does?
True.
So that's the thing. It's like tattoos, same thing.
Yeah.
Tattoos are primarily because pagan people would mark themselves to prove, fealty to the god or goddess they served.
Yeah. What about like piercings per se?
Same thing.
Any like body mutilation?
Any body modification, as I'll call it. Which is why that I think now it's very reasonable to say, as long as you're not doing it in a way that is demeaning to your body or demeaning to your relationship with God, I don't see a reason why you can't have tattoos all you want.
Yeah. What happens if it's like a tattoo devoted to God?
Again, that wasn't a thing in the Levitical law. So because there just was a prohibition in general against it.
Yeah.
But the larger point is there are things in the Old Testament that are there for a specific reason. And as Christians, we are not bound by those things anymore. We are bound by good behavior 100%. Paul several times he will simultaneously yell at the Judaizers for trying to make people follow the old law.
Yeah.
But will then also reprimand churches, for Corinthians comes to mind, for behaving in these immoral and immodest ways. So there's a fine line, there's a balance between, I don't want you to be legalistic to the point that you follow a law. Yeah. But you also, being in relationship with Jesus is supposed to change you. You're supposed to become new. You're not supposed to stay the same. Yeah. And if I can't distinguish you from the pagan worshipers around you, there's something not right here.
That makes so much sense. So it's like he, as his chosen people, he said, these are the ways I want you to follow. I want you to be different. No body mutilations. Be more morally just than the pagans. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then throughout the Old Testament, all the way up into Jesus is sent, and then he fulfills the covenant. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and then it sets it in place. So it's like, all right, well, I've fulfilled the covenant. This is for the rest of humanity, right, to be saved. It's really brilliant if you think mm-hmm. about it, because it's like God sets it up. Boom, boom, he puts all these laws down, and then sets his son. He brings his son, the Son of God, Son of Man, Jesus Christ, who is God, is crucified and killed for our sins, and then fulfills the covenant. Mm-hmm. Fulfills that promise that Isaiah spoke about. Yep. It's absolutely brilliant.
And the thing too is, this is what frustrates me when people try and are legalistic about things, or will pull out something from Leviticus or from the Old Testament. It's like, okay, I put it this way. Imagine you have a loan that you have to pay back, okay? If someone pays the loan for you, do you keep paying the loan?
Probably not.
Of course not. That'd be foolishness. The loan company will take your money.
Yeah.
As much as you want to give them, they will. If I get a loan from Bank of America will keep taking, but they'll be like, we don't know what to do with it, but they'll keep taking my money and cashing my checks for sure. Why would you try to go and fulfill an agreement that has been fulfilled already?
That's true.
Unless the New Testament is specifically silent on something, then we can look to the Old for examples, for sure. There's precedent for that. Yeah. But it is not binding to me anymore. To say that is ridiculous. Mm-hmm.
Do you think like a lot of like the Old Testament is included to kind of tell you the story of how which brought about Christ into the world?
This probably will get some people angry. Yeah. The Old cannot be read and understood without the New. Mm. The Old does not make sense. I mean, it is a package deal on its own. Yeah. But the Old does not make sense without the New. That's the fundamental issue with the Old Testament. Yeah. Is the Old Testament, God looks angry, looks vengeful, looks wrathful. Yeah. Because that is the nature of the relationship at the time between fallen man and God. When you read it through the lens of the New Testament, what you see is a God trying to get his love back. You see him doing all these things to say, no, I want you to come back to me.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to let you out on your own, but if you've chosen that, there are consequences that people, this is a symptom of modern society. There are consequences. You get a bimodal choice, yes or no. When you pick no, there are consequences to that. To quote a TV show, when you choose violence, violence happens. So that is how you read the Old Testament, through the lens of the New.
So it's like the Old Testament is like the God of discipline and punishment, whereas the New Testament is like the God of love and God of love and
grace. I would
grace,
argue.
Grace.
Exactly. And I would say to call him the God of
forgiveness,
discipline. I mean, it is the God of consequences. I think is the better way to put it, because it is saying this is the consequence of what you have chosen. It's not that God am unable to stop it, but to be consistent to my promise to you all the way back in the garden, I have to let you deal with some consequences. Here's the path of how you get out of that, but I have to let you, because I have to be consistent with my word. And my word was that if you eat this fruit, you're going to have to carry the burden of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's the thing. Human beings, we're not designed to carry evil, which is why when things happen to people, they have horrific psychological results. When you go through abuse, when you go through those kind of things, I would bet you $10 if I got an expert in neuroscience on here, they would tell you it alters the pathway in your brain. And this is why you get people having things like PTSD, because we were not designed for murder. We're not designed for death. We're designed for life and for it to go on for eternity. And that's really that's why people have a hard time reconciling the old and the new. And you have to look at the Old Testament God as a God who says, like a parent, I have to let you have consequences because you will not learn any other way.
Makes sense. And they fall off so many times.
It's every time. It's not even so many times, dude. It's every single time. You'll see they're great for, the Bible will talk about, they're great for, these generations. And then it'll say something innocuous like the generation after this generation didn't know the Lord, which is Old Testament speak for, they effed up. That's what it's Old Testament speak for. And, you see this over and over again. And that's why there is so much to love Jesus for, because Jesus steps in and says, hey, the only one who can possibly bridge this gap is me, because I'm the only one who is able to go through the process of death and come back from it. Because humans, when you die, it'll be the end. Unless I do something miraculous and resurrect you, which we'll get to Revelation at some point. But unless you do that, you cannot bridge this gap. And I love you to the point where I would rather give up life and have to walk through death and bridge it than to not have you with me. That's what makes hell so bad. It is not fire. It is not ice. It is not anything else. It is separation from God. And what people don't understand is that we, even here on earth, you're in the orbit of God here, spiritually speaking. When you go to hell, that's gone. And that's what will make you suffer. It's not, it's like the Simpsons bit where like Homer goes and like he gets like donut shoved in his face. You're like, this isn't too bad. No. Like, it's far worse, because every shred of what you understand as your spirituality is out the window, gone, because your connection to the Holy Spirit and to God is severed.
Isn't it said that once you ascend to heaven, you forget the people that say are in hell?
I don't know that is scripturally supported. I would have to look, to be honest with you. That is not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that once you kind of crossover, right? You kind of forget everyone else, which is really weird because, I mean, currently living with someone who is in the throes of dying, like literally she is, grandma is not long for this world. It's so strange because her desire is to be with her husband, which I get. But there's a part of me theologically that Russell is like, but grandpa is like with Jesus and like not experiencing anything. Like, you like, not saying the want is one-sided, but like you're approaching this from a temporal perspective. Mm-hmm. And I believe that my grandfather is with Jesus being like, this is great. Yeah. My bladder cancer's gone. My back hurt no more, Yeah. So I that's not the first time I've heard that. Long way to answer your question, but yeah, that's to me. I kind of would be like, and if I'm in the presence of God, I might have the same response. To be honest with you,
yeah. I'm kind of curious. This is something I thought of. I feel like I've heard of it once. Is like, what stage of life, when you ascend up to heaven, what stage of life would you be when you're in heaven? Are you going to be your 13-year-old self? Are you going to be your 29-year-old self? Are you going to be your 70-year-old self? Like, I found that I heard that once and I found it extremely profound because I was like, whoa, that's something we don't think about every day.
Yeah, I don't know. I would kind of like to think that I would be, I tend to think it as adult because you tend to have full consciousness of what goes on. And as a kid, you become, but then again, that's the thing. But then again, I can make an argument for kids because you're not, as a kid, there are things like that I just was not aware of. And again, if I'm being intellectually consistent with what I just said, mere 10 minutes ago, right? Well, there's an argument to be made that I wasn't meant to, like, that my adult state is because I'm constantly discerning good from evil. Yeah. And then when I get to heaven, I don't have to do that anymore. So I might be childlike from this perspective, if that makes sense.
Or perhaps it's not us to know and decide.
Well, probably that too.
Yeah, it's something that we cannot comprehend.
The answer is maybe. Yeah. Like all things in theology, the answer is maybe.
Perhaps.
Yes, perhaps. But no, I think too, it's very telling that we tend to, in theology, there's a lot. I mean, I guess there's equal, but I feel like the theology of the everyday man, to me, we're more interested in what happens when we die than what happened at the beginning of creation. If I talk to Christians and I said, what are you most questioning on? It's probably more, I would like some more assurance, because there are some denominational differences of, do you fall asleep and then wait until God happens? Do you die and instantly you're at the judgment throne? Is there some in between? I tend to have my own kind of belief on quantum physics about that. Yeah. But again, that's informed by a very modern view of things. Yeah. So, but I would have to do some more academic research to be
perhaps able to. It's so complex, so it's not up to us to understand. That's on God, and we can't possibly understand it as mortals.
But the answer to that question then begs the question of, are ghosts real? Yeah. Because it would imply that if you're hanging around, it implies that can you then walk around spiritually? Yeah. Because some people will say that all ghosts are just demons in disguise.
Yeah. Or are ghosts that are here, is that purgatory? I don't know.
Is that
is that...
Okay, so here's a great question, Luca. Where does purgatory come from?
Maccabees is brought out in the Maccabees. Don't ask me the Bible.
You're being a bad Catholic, Luca. Come on.
But I know it is brought... Maccabees, of which I know that in the Protestant Bible, I have one back here. It's not included in
correct
Elevation Bible.
Because there's an orange Bible.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not in here.
It is not because it is a Maccabees. There's no Hebrew manuscript for it.
What is the Maccabees? Because I know it's still used to this day. Is it like a zealot organization? Like what do you know what it is exactly? Because I saw some.
What do you mean?
Because I've seen some groups use it. The Maccabee. Where are the Maccabees?
So the Maccabees were a group in the time of the Roman occupation that staved off some invasions.
Okay.
That's what we can do. We can put them on the list to do for Maccabees. A Maccabee. I am not in particular against Maccabees. I'm not. The Septuagint was around when Jesus was alive. The New Testament authors reference the Septuagint, so I am not anti-Septuagint personally. But I would. So I don't personally believe in a purgatory. I don't think there's a place you go when. I don't think it. I tend to believe that when you die, you sleep. But kind of like how, and this is why I use the word quantum for it, kind of like how if you approach a black hole, they say before you fall into a black hole, you will see all of time go if you look up and out in the universe. I tend to believe it's like that. You fall asleep, but then you also instantaneously wake up because from your perspective, you're now outside of time. So everything has happened already. So to me, the answer is yes to both of those questions because it's a time perspective.
Yeah.
We're bound by time, but God is certainly not. So, that's, I don't know, maybe we'll do an entire podcast on purgatory and where it comes because that's a very specific Catholic thing.
Yeah. It's, I'm not sure Eastern Orthodox if they do it too. I have a feeling they
I will call it a high church then thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very interesting. Like, it is spirits that are left behind. Could that be considered? I know we discussed like limbo, where before Jesus died for our sins, the souls that passed away beforehand were in limbo.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. It's like the question is just like, was everybody in the world at that time? They were stuck in limbo, and when Jesus gave his life for us, at that moment were all souls saved, or I guess God did his discernment on who was worthy and who wasn't worthy. It's a very interesting question.
Yes, I think and again, I will do more research and come back. But traditionally, my big issue with purgatory is that it implies that there is additional purification that needs to happen.
Yeah.
When I don't believe that is an issue. Because when you are saved and when you every morning, forgive me of my sins, Lord, right? Okay, well, like God can, like Jesus covers yesterday, today, and the future of sins. Grace is wide enough for that. So by that virtue, those two things are in conflict for me, theologically speaking.
Would you think it would be like it's on your way to heaven? Could it be like,
was it like first floor ladies lingerie, second floor purgatory, third floor heaven?
This sounds like the Led Zeppelin song, The Stairway to Heaven.
Yes.
Could it kind of be something of that sort where it's, you passed away, you're not of this world anymore, and you are currently ascending into heaven, and in that ascent, you are being ridden of your worldly, your thoughts, your sins, whatever, your flesh, and you're becoming one with God, because once you reach heaven, you're in heaven at that point, and that's that. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's like the shedding away of.
I mean that's possible, and this is what I will say, and this is just my general position is, which will anger my Catholic friends in the audience, but being a good adherent to sola scriptura, right? Yeah. I will ask the question of where in the Bible is that? Where in Scripture does that support? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that when I cannot trace it back to Scripture, I have to go to Big Tent and say it's possible. Yeah. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. That's probably what we will need.
That's a very Tim Pool milquetoast answer to give you, but it's a very fence sitter answer to give you, but that is an intellectually
Might have to
honest
get a
answer.
priest in here to speak about that.
Yes.
Because I'd be very curious to kind of know. I just know where it could be found in biblical speaking Maccabees, but then it's like from there I can't really go into depth on it, just based on my limited knowledge. So I'm not going to speak on it.
And that's why I say
I'm not going to go full apologist.
More research is needed because I am not familiar, and it's not something I encounter in my normal, goings on at church.
So whatever I just said, like my take it with a grain of salt. Like that is just something that I thought maybe it could be.
Too late. You're officially representative of the entire Catholic Church.
Yeah. Don't burn me at the stake. No inquisitions, please. I'm sorry.
We don't burn at the stake. We just cancel you. That's the new burning at the stake is canceling.
No, I didn't say anything offensive to somebody, so I'm okay. Well, maybe I did.
Maybe
or
Bill
maybe
Donahue.
We did. I don't know.
Is that the crazy guy Catholic? That's a crazy guy name. Is it Bill Donahue?
Bill Donahue.
Is it the member of like the American Catholic League or something that like?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, South Park made an entire joke about him in their Easter special.
Really?
Yeah,
I never heard of this guy.
Luca.
The American Catholic League.
I'm gonna Google it right now.
Knights of Columbus, which I'm a member of, but
not
I
that.
don't think we ever discussed it. I know there's like Sedecavantists, which they don't believe in Vatican II, and there's some crazy people that are part of that, that believe in some crazy stuff, but I don't know anything about.
Let me see. I need to find it so I can properly, because I know that again, South Park made South Park. They did so apparently in their Easter special, it was Bill Donahue is the main antagonist.
Bill Donahue.
Yes. So he's a great guy. Not a great guy, but I mean he's a great character.
Okay.
And apparently he is a member of the Catholic League, and he effectively dethrones the Pope, saying you are too soft on people. And yeah, this is
Okay.
So there's a real Bill Donahue, and apparently he criticizes South Park, of course, saying that they don't, they're jerks. But
I'm reading on him now.
Yeah. So I don't know who that is, but even large denominations have their, if he's again, I don't know. I would have to look more, but I thought when I rewatched that episode very recently, it was hilarious. I was like, I need to tell Luca about this because I've no.
That can't be real. Okay, I'm reading something that's absolutely insane, and I'm not gonna.
Welcome to every time I find a fundamentalist group. There's like fundamentalist Baptist, fundamentalist Pentecostal.
I'm not gonna mention on here, but what I just wrote, and it was last year in 2025. I'm not gonna even say what it is because it is absolutely. Profound.
Okay, I'm gonna get some popcorn. I'm gonna get some popcorn. We're gonna talk about it after we're done.
Yeah, we are, because that is one of the craziest things I've ever read in my life. Wow. Okay, we're gonna save that for afterwards. But that
seems like a future members only kind of segment.
Okay, so maybe if this is true,
things you can only say on Rumble probably is what this is.
I don't even think that there might be a paywall. This is paywall content. Yeah, because if I were to say that on here, that would like.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
See, I'm telling you,
if he said this, then I'd see why South Park made fun of him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
South Park usually does not make. I will say this: South Park does usually not make fun of things without warrant. Yeah. They don't usually just like roll up, with the exception of, possibly like the Mormons, who they just love to pick on and made a very successful musical on. They usually don't critique without purpose 9.5 times out of 10.
Usually there's like good subject matter as to why they're making fun of it.
Correct, for sure. But no, I think it's but I think but this is the thing, is you get groups who then claim to speak for an entire denomination of people, and there's 1.2 million Catholics in the world. Like there's what historians call a crap ton of Catholics in the world, and so you're going to get diverse. This is one of the fundamental things that always happens with people who are ideologically driven and not intellectually humble. They think that if I have this thing, if I broach, if I bring this topic up, if I say this or write this book, everyone will agree with me, right?
Yeah.
And that rarely ever happens. I mean, part of the thing of the Reformation is that when the Bible started being translated into people's native tongues, you got an explosion of denominations. You didn't get less, you got more, because people tend to not agree with each other. Yeah. Because people can interpret things differently.
Yeah, that's true. And then when you go from like, hey, we translated to French to German, things are not going to equate to each other.
No. And that's why people who spend there are people who spend their lifetime studying Greek to understand the language better, to understand the context better, to understand this.
Maybe we should have done that. We should have taught everybody Greek.
I'm not teaching everyone Greek, Luca.
We should have taught everybody Greek.
I don't. Are you confident? Do you feel confident enough to teach people Greek?
Maybe to learn Greek.
Okay.
To teach you, that's a different story.
Okay.
Maybe I should learn it first before I teach it.
Maybe we should learn it first.
Yeah, before I could say, hey, of course I could teach it. Yeah. I don't know a single word. I know like 2 words, but let me teach it.
What words do you know that are not baklava?
I'm not going to say it on here.
Okay, well, that seems like maybe not Jesus of you, sir.
Yeah, I don't want to get canceled again. Well, I don't think it's canceled.
I think it'd just be demonetized. Yeah. Correct.
I'm not trying to do that. We just started this podcast.
But there are. I will say though, it is very interesting. One of the things, as a closing comment to this episode, as you study and as you look up, especially Greek words, you see how many things have this depth of meaning to it. You see that in the Greek culture, they spend a lot of time thinking because their words have definitions yay long.
Interesting.
You will see. I mean, like you will see this, and Paul uses the word ecclesia. Ecclesia just means assembly or meeting. Mm-hmm. In English, ecclesia is very specific to church.
Yeah. Ecclesiastic.
Correct. But back it up into Greek, and an ecclesia was just an assembly of people. So it's interesting how words specifically get narrowed down when they go into other languages based upon how they're used.
Yeah.
Which I just find very interesting. Again, kind of like Oranos and firmament or sky. Oranos actually means cosmos.
Okay.
That's literally what Oranos is, the OG Greek word usage of that is. So, side note. But again, I find it very interesting, but I believe that's where we're going to have to end for today, sir.
Yeah, so I would ask one thing from the audience is leave a comment on which one that you believe in most, or all the way, or if you're more of like historical creationist, or if you believe more of
creation myth or historical saga.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So
let us know.
Put in the comments. I'm very, very curious to hear what our listeners believe in, and why. Why do you think that way? So always back it up with that's the reason why. So, other than that, we're gonna close out this episode number 5, our first episode with our beautiful camera.
Yeah.
So you get to see our beautiful faces from now on, for the most part, unless it breaks, and then you won't.
We break the camera.
Yeah. But other than that, all we can do is wish you a very blessed week, and God bless.